Alright, so welcome everybody. I wanted to do a video using RPG Maker to, help show people that don't know how to use it, or have never used it before but are interested in using it, how to learn. And so here I have RPG Maker, the version is MV, that's V as in Viper, as opposed to the new one, MZ, Z as in Zebra. It's a little bit confusing for conversation, but anyway, yeah, this is at the time of recording, this is the second most recent version. And it does pretty much everything that, that MZ can do for the most part. But I just wanted to show, how to use it, especially if, you've looked at other tutorials and maybe they've seen, pretty fast, or, like you've had to rewatch them a whole bunch, or whatever. I just wanted to take something a little slower and a little more meticulous. And what I was going to do here, in the help menu, there's actually a section that says tutorial. Now, this didn't exist until one of the more recent versions of RPG Maker MV's updates. So I feel like I got it to work once upon a time, but and here you can see, if you go into it, there's all these events and things that it, or different things that it tells you how to do, like map basics and event basics, things like that. And you're supposed to click on one and you start tutorial, but for me it just doesn't work. It just sits there on the blank screen and doesn't start anything. So I don't know if I'm just like not using it right or what. But anyway, so instead of doing that, I thought, well, just try making an actual game instead, and showing everybody what to do that way. That way you can kind of follow along and see how everything works. So so this is just, this screen that we're seeing here is just when you first load up the software. This is all you'll see, is just blank screen. So so the first thing I'll do is just go over all the icons and things like that. So when you first start up, you need to make a new project. To do that, we go up to File at the top, and then the first option here says New Project, so we'll go ahead and do that. Now here you want to name your game project and the title of it, and then in location it shows you where where it's going to save your data as you're working on your project. So I actually have an idea in mind for mine, so I'm going to name it Monster Town Project. And now let's see, if you typed in the name in the name box, it automatically changes the game's title, but you can change that separately too if you'd like. So I'm actually going to change it a little bit to that's Human in Monsteropolis is the theme and the name for my game. And you can go back in and change the title and everything later. It's kind of better to have it in mind ahead of time if you can. So anyway, once you've got that figured out, just go ahead and hit the OK button, and then it will create a new project, a new basic project for you with all the files and things that come with RPG Maker. So here you were greeted and you can see the title here, Human in Monsteropolis. Alright, so and then you can see the first map 001. So this pane down here is where all your maps will appear. And then this main screen here, this is the view of the map. So we can see this little character is our starting character. And by default, RPG Maker sets some things up for you, but we can change all that. So so here to start with, I'll just start talking about these icons up here. So this white looks like a new page, whatever. That's a new, if you want a new project. So it just creates a new project. The next one over to it, the folder with the green plus, is to open an existing project. So if you have one that you've already saved, then you can reopen it here, or if you're going between multiple projects. And most of this you can also use up in the menu up here too. And the file menu has new project, open project, all that stuff. So save, this is a quick save button. That's pretty handy. You'll get used to clicking that pretty often when you make as you make progress and things. And this next section we have basic operations of cut, copy, and paste. And we'll be using plenty of those too. This green button here is the undo button, and it steps back, things that you've done if you, decide you don't want to do certain things. It's especially helpful when you're drawing your area maps and things. If you, if you happen to misclick a little bit or drag the mouse a little bit in a direction you didn't quite mean to, and then you just do that and it'll undo the last steps that you did. And then these two options here, this one it says map, which is called map, which doesn't really tell you much, but it says switches to the map editing mode. And then in here right now, this is the one that we have selected, it's event, so it switches to the event editing mode. So the easy way to tell the difference, if obviously other than this square being brighter and outlined and everything to show you, hey, this is where you're selecting right now, but the other easy way is you see all these little individual squares on the map here, and that's how you know that you're in event mode, because you can click on the screen and it'll show you, oh, you're selecting this particular area, versus when you're in the map mode, all those outline squares go away and now your cursor changes to this. So the difference is the map mode here is what you'll want to do when you're actually drawing the map itself, like whatever you want to have on the map, whether it's houses or roads or whatever, trees, all that stuff. And then event mode is when you want to add individual things like other characters or certain events, and we'll use plenty of we'll be jumping back and forth between plenty of those. So I'm going to go ahead and click on map, and then we can check out these other icons over here that are related to it. So the pencil icon, this is draws tiles freehand, so that you'll use that quite a bit. This rectangle one here, it says draws a rectangle, so that's good for if you're wanting to do things like that are very square in nature, but you want to do it quickly, so you don't have to, like say you wanted to cover this whole area with water or something, and you want it to be a square for some reason. Maybe it's a swimming pool, I don't know. But it would be a lot easier to use the rectangle and just cover it all, versus trying to do it one at a time, individual squares. And then this is the ellipse button, and it does more or less the same thing as the rectangle one, it's just an ellipse shape here. And then here we have the flood fill, and it fills the enclosed area. So, and I'll demonstrate a lot of these too. For now I'm just going to do a quick overview of what they are. So if you wanted to fill the whole entire screen really easily, you can just use the flood fill and click once and it would fill it. And then this is the shadow pen. This is adds or removes shadows of walls. So that's something that's more of a personal preference thing. Like some people like having the shadows, some don't. And you can modify the shadows into like on an individual basis with this pen. So, and then here we have a plus magnifying glass to zoom in, so it zooms in the map view. So I'll click that a couple times just to show you, and you can zoom in much more closely. Next to that we have the minus, which is to zoom out, does the same thing. And if you want to go back to the original size, then we've got this 1:1 option here, and it says actual size. It says displays the map at a scale of 1:1. So that's the actual size of the map here. And then further on we have these two little gear icons as the database, and it says opens the database. We'll be doing a lot of stuff in there as we go through. That's where you modify a bunch of things in your game. This little puzzle piece icon is for plugins. It's the plugin manager. I don't actually want to use plugins for like my goal with this tutorial, I think, is to just try to make something that you can make in the basic editor without having any extra content that you've had to get outside of it. So that way people have a pretty good idea of what they can do with the game straight away from buying the software. But there are a lot of free resources out there that plugins that will enhance your game experience and allow you to do things that you can't normally do. I think I will cover that to some extent, but it'll probably be in a much later video. That's what I'm planning right now, so we'll see. But that's what that's for, to manage your plugins, any plugins that you're using. Here we have the sound test. So this will let you just listen to sound effects and music. I can actually click it just to show you what it looks like. So you have separate tabs here: the background music, background sounds, music effects, and sound effects. And we'll play around with this more. But for now, you can just kind of see there's play options, there's stop options. So if you want to listen to some background music while you're, working on your game, you can do that, and it'll play in the background for you until you tell it to stop. There's volume, and you can play with pitch and pan, things like that. But and here we have the event searcher. It's not something that this is something you don't even need to use if you don't want. It's totally optional. I actually am not the hugest fan of it, but I know people that they do use it quite a bit to save them some time. But opens the event searcher window, so we'll talk more about events, further on. But it's basically a way to search for a particular thing that you've done on a map, or things like that. In case you're trying to, it's like, oh, I can't remember where I put whatever event thing. Maybe it's a door or something. I mean, that's a bad example because you're going to be able to find doors. But maybe a particular character says a line of text, and you're trying to remember, like, oh, which character said that? I don't remember. And then you can use the search, to try to find it more easily. Resource manager. So I'll just click that. So this is all just stuff that you can see: pictures, faces, enemies, system, titles. So these are all resources that come with the game. And this is how you can add additional content that from, like, you see this DLC button here. But I'll just click characters, for example. So here's a bunch of the character files that come with it. And if you wanted to make your own characters, you can add them in this way to the resource manager. You would go to import and add in anything you've made custom, and then the game would have it in its resources files for you to use. So. And then here with this character face, we have the character generator. We will be using that at a future point for sure. And then finally on the far right, we have the playtest button, and this is one you'll be using all the time. So it's a playtest of the current game, because that lets you test things out to make sure they're working, as you would expect. So, okay, so that's, the general overview there. There's more options here in the top here that we can get into. So here mode, you can change map and event just like we could with these icons. The drawing options, just the same as those ones. Scale, zoom in, zoom out. Here we have all the tools that we can grab. And then the options for the game, or for the software itself, you can actually go in here. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's the gist of the icons and the menu and all that.